UFC is finally back, man, and we're about less than a week away from the first fight card of 2025. Now, the main event is not that appealing, but there's some decent matchups on the card that I like. And yeah, man, had a decent 2024. I'm always looking to do better, looking to improve. So I took my time on this card. I feel like I have some pretty good reads and not going to waste any more time. Let's hop right into the first fight, which is going to be Yanal Ashmouz taking on Narullo Aliev. Now, Yanal Ashmouz, as you can tell, it says he is 5'9" right here. There's not a chance, okay? There's no way this dude is 5'9". I might as well consider myself LeBron, bro. He's not that big. He's very, very small for the lightweight division, in my opinion. And when I look at Yanal Ashmouz, he is a wrestler, okay? And he's been known, I guess, so far in his UFC career to be a striker. But you go back, and he does have those wrestling roots. He actually trains at a camp in New Jersey where a lot of wrestlers are, a lot of Dagestani, heavy pressure wrestlers are. So he's going to have that good experience with those guys. He's 2-1 in the UFC so far. Lost over Chris Duncan where he hurt his shoulder. And when it comes to his skill set, man, he has not great BJJ. He can wrestle, he can scramble, he's fast, he's elusive on the feet. He likes to throw those wide hooks that are powerful. He knocked out Sam Patterson with it. And he's not a bad fighter. Now, he's taking on Narullo Aliev, who is very young. I believe he's 24. He's on a long, long layoff, and he's coming back to fight Yanal Ashmouz. Now, originally, as you can tell, I was pretty high on Yanal. And I was like, maybe he can come in here and win this fight because he does have that wrestling base. But I go back and I watch some of the film, and Yanal, to me, I see him gas out quite a bit. You can't gas out against Aliev. Now, Yanal Ashmouz, the way he's got to win this fight, in my humble opinion, is finding that knockout shot. Now, I do think that early on, Ashmouz will be able to defend the takedowns of Aliev and maybe have some success, but as the fight carries on, I think Aliev's just going to keep going, keep putting that pressure on him, and just suffocate him with that non-stop takedowns that he does. If he fails a takedown, he's not going to waste any more time. He's going to go right back to it. And when the fight's on the feet, he's not the better striker. He kind of reminds me of a young Khabib when he strikes. And I'm not going to say his wrestling's as dominant, but it is very, very high level. Okay? And personally, the number is a little bit crazy. I believe he's up to minus 450, somewhere around there. And while I do think he's, good, and I've watched him, and he's got a good skill set, I don't think he has enough finishing ability for me to want to lay money on him at minus 500. I don't think that's very much worth it because he doesn't have a lot of finishes, okay? If he's going to get a finish, it's going to be ground and pound, and it's going to be really later on into that fight, in my opinion. But I do think that Aliev is going to get this one done. He's heavy on top, good takedown entries. They're fast. He'll switch the entries up, single leg, double leg, trip, and he's strong in the clinch. And I ultimately think the size of Aliev is going to cause some problems to Ashmouz, as well as Ashmouz. He is skilled on the ground. I think he can scramble, have some success early on, but just as it keeps going, the pressure is just going to be too much. And I think Aliev is going to take over this fight later on, second round, third round. But the first round, I do think it's a round where we'll see a lot of scrambling, and Ashmouz maybe come out on top and win that round. But overall, I just don't think Ashmouz is big enough, physical enough to be able to withstand all the pressure that Aliev is going to bring to him. So I won't be going with him to win this fight. I'm going to be going with Narullo Aliev, a 29-28 decision for the first fight of the year, man. Next up, Fatima Kline taking on Viktoriia Dudakova. Now, I made my early predictions, and I said how Fatima Kline looked like she was a striker. I was quickly, rerouted and said that she's not a striker. And sorry, I don't tune into WMMA on the regional scene a lot. And, she's coming into this fight, minus 1,000. I'm going to keep this plain and simple, man. I'm just going to pick her to win this fight. I know she has a decent skill set. I know she's young. I know she's highly touted as a prospect. Dudakova has gone out there and lost to Sam Hughes. And I know Kline just lost her debut on short notice versus Jasmine Judavicius, who is very large, very big, and strong at flyweight, up a weight class. I think Kline will get this one done by a submission or a decision. She looked pretty good on the feet, and she just kind of got dominated by the strength and the power that Jasmine Judavicius has. So I will be going with Fatima Kline via submission or decision to win this one. Next fight on the card is going to be Bruno Lopes taking on Magomed Gadhyiyasulov. Now, honestly, when Magomed Gadhyiyasulov was coming into this division, I really did think he was going to be a problem for a lot of guys. A guy who can kickbox, who is fast, athletic, who can wrestle as well. But his first two performances have been very, very underwhelming. And that's why they kind of given him this matchup in Bruno Lopes. Now, Bruno Lopes, two-time Contender Series fighter, lost once, got put out cold by Brenson Iberio, and just got a win on his last fight, in the Contender Series. It wasn't impressive, okay? He got knocked down by a heavyweight Merab, practically. I mean, the dude is Georgian. He looks exactly like Merab. And Lopes, I thought, was going to go in there and dominate that fight. He didn't. He got dropped badly, and if that shot would have landed a little bit more clean on the chin, Lopes would have been out cold. So, honestly, both guys are very skilled, especially when you look at a light heavyweight. Both guys are skilled. Both guys can go to the ground. Both guys can stand on the feet. And in this matchup, Gadhyiyasulov, to me, the better wrestler. And Bruno Lopes, to me, the better BJJ guy. But on the feet, who's the better athlete? Who's the faster guy? It's going to be Gadhyiyasulov. And that's why I think I'm going to pick him here. Due to the fact that Lopes, he is a pretty good striker. He's a decent striker. And I don't think that highly of Gadhyiyasulov as a striker either. But when it comes to the footwork, the speed, the kicking, and ultimately the athletic ability, Gadhyiyazulov's better, okay? And I do think that Lopes can make this fight close. He's not a scrub fighter. He is skilled. He does have good BJJ. He does have solid, boxing. And Gadhyiyasulov has not been that good, okay? Simple as that, man. You go back to another common opponent they had, Brenson Iberio, where Gadhyiyasulov couldn't check a kick and got his legs eaten up, okay? Where he got dropped with leg kicks pretty much. And it was bad, okay? And he dropped the first round to Brenson Iberio, but fell back on that wrestling and was able to hold Iberio down for 2 rounds and win that fight. But man, he's had some concerning fights so far. But in this spot, I just think he's the better athlete here. But Lopes can make it competitive. So I maybe see a 29-28 decision where Gadhyiyasulov is going to go out there, win the first round. Maybe Lopes can win the second. But, I think Gadhyiyazulov's going to be the right guy here due to the fact of his athletic ability. And simple as that, because both guys are skilled. I don't see one area where he's overpowering the other area here. So Gadhyiyasulov will be my pick for this fight. Next up is going to be Ernesta Kareckaite versus Nicolle Caliari. Now, I watched Ernesta. She lost her debut. And looking back at her fights before her debut were not that impressive, okay? But she is improving a lot, okay? And in that fight, I believe she fought Diana Barboza or I don't know her name, sorry. She looked bad in the first round, was getting tagged up on the feet, got taken down in that first round. And Barboza's not a terrible fighter. But, towards the second and third round of that fight, Barboza was gassing out, and Ernesta was landing good shots, looking good with the sprawls, looking good with the takedown defense, and looking better on the feet. She's improving a lot, and I do see a solid skill set in her. As you can tell, she's 5'9". 71-inch reach is a lot for a flyweight, okay? That's in like the, 5'11", 5 or 6 foot type reach. So she does have a long reach. She is the longer fighter, much longer, okay? Nicolle Caliari has decent striking. She has pretty heavy hands, and she's going to want to get this fight to the ground because I don't think Ernesta's out of this world kickboxer and that's that good on the feet, but she is better to me on the feet due to the fact of her range. Her range is going to be a lot to handle, and the way that Caliari can win this fight is going and taking her down. And I don't really know if I trust that, okay? Because Nicolle Caliari, I know she has, judo background and stuff like that, but her, takedowns aren't that good, right? I don't think her takedowns are dominant. And I like the improvements I'm seeing from Ernesta Kareckaite, and she's about minus 240 here. Another fight I'm not betting on by any means, and I'll probably just lean Ernesta. She looked good in her last fight. Towards the end of that fight, I actually thought she won. And Nicolle, she's not bad. Solid little boxing combinations inside the pocket. Like I said, good throws, good judo trips. She got an arm bar on her debut or Contender Series fight. She's not a bad fighter. But I am going to go with Ernesta. I think she's rounding out well, getting better every fight. I think she'll get this one done via decision. Now, next up is an interesting one. You got Andreas Gustafsson taking on Preston Parsons. Now, Andreas Gustafsson, if you don't know, actually, I'm going to say this first about this fight. Honest to God, Preston Parsons might be better everywhere in this fight, and I truly do believe that. But when you look at Andreas Gustafsson, when you just take a look at the guy, look at his tattoos, look at his head, he is a psychopath, okay? You know, when you go back and watch some of his fights on the regional scene, man, there's one fight that was like fight of the year, just outstanding, okay? First of all, the dude is tough as nails, and he's not intimidated by anybody, and I mean anybody. And Preston Parsons is going to have to try to back him up. Preston Parsons doesn't have a knockout in his career. His career, not the regional scene, not the UFC, not the backyard brawls, okay? He doesn't have a KO anywhere. Now, I do think he's the better striker. I do think he's the better wrestler. But, man, who is more dangerous? Who has this mentality to just kill you? That's Gustafsson, okay? When it comes to Gustafsson's skill set, he has a background in wrestling. He can wrestle a little bit, but he doesn't really want to get you down to the ground, right? And I don't think that in this fight he's going to be able to get Parsons down to the ground because Parsons is a pretty good wrestler and pretty good grappler. But Gustafsson is going to take over this fight in the clinch, okay? Another fight that I'll probably stay away from, but man, Gustafsson is a killer, okay? He is a killer. He's going to walk forward at Preston Parsons and put him in the clinch and elbow him and dirty box him, throw combinations right in front of his face, not give him any room to move. And man, that fight style can just, first of all, it can wear you down, okay? And Preston Parsons, decent cardio, nothing out of this world, but man, it will wear you down. He did that in his Contender Series fight. I mean, just wore this poor guy down, bro. It was just horrible. I mean, just beat the hell out of him. It was just a brutal, brutal fight, and that's what he does. He's a grinder, as well as Parsons. They both like to grind out fights, but the guy who's more aggressive with that killer instinct is Gustafsson. When you look at Parsons, he has good wrestling entries. He has decent strikings. He likes to dance around the outside. Not going to work. It's not going to work here. He's got to be able to put Gustafsson on his back. Simple as that. If he can put Gustafsson on his back, he can have success here. The problem with that is when you watch Preston Parsons, for the most part, man, he's not able to hold people down for long periods of time on the ground. It's usually, yes, quick entries, good explosiveness into the takedown, but people are up pretty quick. And I don't really trust him to be able to hold Gustafsson down because he won't win on the feet. Simple as that, man. Gustafsson's will to break you and his aggressiveness is going to be way too much for Parsons. I think he'll break Parsons down throughout this fight. I'm feeling a third round late TKO from Andreas Gustafsson, man. This dude, he's a killer, man. And now thinking how much I've talked good about him, maybe I'll bet on him because, man, he has that killer inside of him, all right? And Preston Parsons, you just take a look at his picture, man. He just doesn't look like he's got that killer inside of him. We'll see what he's made of once the fight comes. I don't think he's going to be made of enough. I think Gustafsson wins this fight. Third round TKO up on the fence with the elbows. He's a dangerous guy, man. The next fight up is going to be Thiago Moises taking on Trey Ogden. Now, early on, I have been a Trey Ogden fan because of the way that he fights, the IQ that he fights behind, and he's a very good coach. He's an up-and-coming coach, and he's a very smart fighter. Now, he's not the most athletic. He's not the fastest. He's not the hardest hitter. He's not the biggest guy, but he knows how to fight. He knows how to win, and he's taken on Moises, who is very balanced, a veteran of the game, taking a lot of damage. And it's going to be a good little scrap. But when it comes to Ogden's skill set, he likes to mix in the wrestling, but he likes to blitz in with his jab, come back out, and land little shots on the feet. He doesn't really have this power to break you down and back you up and come at you so aggressively. He doesn't do that. He is looking to set up his takedowns for the most part and mix in the wrestling, which he does a really good job at, and I got to give credit to him. Now, my issue here is that Moises is so well balanced that I think it's going to be a little bit of a problem for Ogden to go out there and be able to mix in that wrestling like he does such a good job at. Because if he does get the takedown, which I do think he might be able to in this fight, Moises is a dangerous guy off his back. He can get your leg, he can get you in a triangle, he can get you in an armbar. He's got tons of submissions. And I do think both guys are very good on the ground with their BJJ. And I think Ogden's a little bit underrated with his BJJ. But I think Moises is a little bit better with the, jiu-jitsu. And that's going to be a problem for him. Especially another big part in this fight is the calf kick of Thiago Moises. It's very, very good. You saw him, get a TKO stoppage over Mitch Ramirez, which I'm not going to go into too much depth about. I mean, Mitch Ramirez, he's a guy who's on, street beefs. He's not good. But Moises tore his legs up, and he does have good calf kicks in general. That calf kick is going to be a problem for Ogden, okay? Because Ogden's had trouble with those kicks in the past, and it's going to be a big problem he's got to address early because he can't sit there and take a lot from Moises. Moises, he's not a clean striker. And matter of fact, I think his last performance versus Kline was one of the worst performances I've seen out of him ever. I think it was. I mean, it was just no big moments whatsoever. Got absolutely destroyed, got dropped twice, got taken down by Kline, just got killed, okay? And it's hard for me to sit here and say I'm going to pick Moises because of that performance, and you look at the other side, Ogden's been winning, okay? But man, I think so highly of Kline that I'm going to be going with Moises, and I ultimately think that it's the game plan that Ogden likes to use. It just doesn't, it's not going to, I don't think it's effective enough on Moises. Moises can stuff takedowns. He can take Ogden down if he, persists to do that, as well as the in and out movement of Ogden. It's got to be, it's going to be countered by leg kicks. You saw in the Nicholas Mata fight where Ogden was killing Mata. Mata was kicking the calf early and having success with it, and then he stopped doing it, and that's when Ogden took over the fight. Ignacio Bahamondes was tearing the legs up of Ogden. I think Moises is going to go out there and tear the legs up and win minutes, but it's a tricky fight because Trey Ogden ultimately is a tricky fighter. He's a very, very skilled and high IQ fighter, and I definitely don't want to bet against him, but if I'm picking a guy, I'm going to pick Moises due to his just skill set, and I think he can kind of nullify the game plan of Trey Ogden. So my pick is going to be Thiago Moises via a decision or submission maybe. Next fight up is going to be Marco Tulio taking on Ihor Poteiria. Now, look, man, I'm not going to spend way too much time on this. Ihor Poteiria, well, I don't think he's some horrible fighter, because you go and look at some of his fights where he does have success, okay? He has a loss versus Rodolfo Bellato. He was winning that fight and probably had Bellato out of there, and I don't think highly of Bellato. I think he sucks, actually. But then you go back to the Almeida fight, he had some success there, okay? He's not some horrid fighter that he's made out to be. Now, his skill set's not bad. He's tall. He's rangy. He actually has some slick hands. But ultimately, the problem that's always going to be a problem for Ihor Poteiria is going to be his cardio. It's horrible. It never gets better. He has gassed out in every single fight. So he's got to get a finish, right? That's the only way I see him really winning this fight, because a guy like Marco Tulio can go out there and mix up the wrestling, mix up the striking. He's a hard hitter, but I don't think this is going to be Marco Tulio going out there and putting on a masterclass with a first-round KO or first-round submission. I don't really see that. I think Poteiria is going to give him some issues early on into this fight. But, man, Ihor's gas tank, it is just so bad. So I don't think I can go say, oh, Ihor's going to win because he can take over late. He can have success early on, but as the fight goes, Marco Tulio is going to be able to mix it up. He throws hard. He hits hard. I do think he will get a finish later on into this fight. And I just think Ihor's gas tank is so bad. It never gets better. There's nothing he does, to get it better. I don't know where the hell the guy trains at. And I know Tulio's at shoot box. He has a good skill set, does Tulio. Like I said, hits hard. He has strong body lock takedowns. He's got a little bit of jiu-jitsu. And, he's a pretty balanced fighter when it comes to a middleweight. And I do think that he's going to get this one done really on Ihor Poteiria gassing out later on into the fight. So I will be going with Marco Tulio via finish. And next up, a very, very weird fight, okay? You got two of the bigger flyweights going at it. The bigger one is definitely Jose Johnson, and he's taking on Felipe Bunes. Now, Felipe Bunes is actually sneakily good. I do think that he's a live underdog in this fight. He's very good. He's got good boxing. He's got good kicking. He's got good BJJ. And I do think that both these guys, they are a little bit of mirror matchups, to each other, because they really do fight alike. But this fight is chaotic, and if you're betting on either or, I kind of just call you an idiot, man. I just don't think that. Oh man, it's definitely dog or pass. First of all, I want to say there's no way I'm putting money on Johnson, but it's just so chaotic. Both these guys are a little bit chaotic, and I don't want to say both of them. Bunes is a little bit chaotic, but Johnson is extremely chaotic. I mean, he had Asua Mabayev's back, okay? He's a guy who's very aggressive, BJJ. He's very aggressive in general. His striking is aggressive. It's not that good. You know, when he jumps into his shots, he overextends. Do I think Felipe Bunes is a better striker? Maybe. But I think Jose Johnson's got better gas tank. That's, you know, kind of what this fight comes down to. I don't even know. I think both guys' gas tank isn't good. But I just expect Johnson to do a little bit more. Johnson is very aggressive on the ground with submissions. He will put himself in bad positions to try to get a submission on you, and he's going to be aggressive off his back to get submissions. He puts himself in bad positions, like I just said. He's an aggressive fighter with not great IQ, and he's taking on Bunes, who, like I said, man, he's solid everywhere. And he goes out there, has success early on versus Joshua Van, where he was able to get a takedown, able to land some nice shots, but just ultimately got broken by Van with the body shots, with the combinations, and he gassed out really bad. And ultimately, man, I'm not going to waste my time. I think Johnson's going to win this one just off bigger moments, but I think the safest bet here is to go fight to end by submission. I mean, both these guys do have good jiu-jitsu. Both these guys have been submitted before. I think we're going to see a fight end by submission. I'm hoping that I can get a good number on this because I've been really excited to share this kind of bet because I don't know if anybody else has been, you know, seeing this. But to me, man, there's no way this fight doesn't get a submission. They're both guys way too aggressive. Johnson will shoot takedowns. Bunes will shoot takedowns. And both guys have good BJJ and aggressive BJJ. And I'm hoping we don't get a stump where there's so many submission attempts but no submissions, because I do think that ultimately there are going to be a lot of submission attempts in this fight. So keep it simple on this one. I'm going to go with Johnson for my pick. I just think he'll be able to get more done in the fight and ultimately be able to find a submission here. But I could see Bunes going out there and easily, you know, finding a submission himself. But on the feet, I do think Johnson can land a little bit more. And it's, like I said, a tight fight, a weird stylistic matchup. But I think the safest bet here in terms of, you know, the value is going to easily be fight to end by submission. I'm hoping, you know, I can find a good number on that. I'm really hoping so, but we'll see. Next up is going to be Punahele Soriano versus Uros Medic. Now, man, I've seen this line close a lot, and I understand Punahele. He's okay. You know, he goes out there, last fight, wrestles Miguel Baeza, who was on a long layoff, right? I mean, good God. I think he hadn't fought in 2 or 3 years, and he'd been knocked out 3 times in a row or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But he was an underdog in that fight. That was his first fight at welterweight. He wrestled a lot. And first of all, in the first couple of rounds, Baeza was putting himself in those positions, trying to get leg locks. Just a weird kind of situation that went on in that fight. And no, I don't think Punahele Soriano is a bad fighter. I think he is pretty balanced. He is a okay wrestler. He has good entries. But in this fight, man, I think he's so outmatched. I really do. When you look at Punahele, man, he's so, you know, easy to read on the feet. He's one-dimensional. He headhunts. He doesn't set up shots. He doesn't feint. Uros Medic, I feel like, is going to tear him up. I really do. Punahele's skill set, like I said, heavy slugger that wrestled Miguel Baeza, so people think he's a wrestler now. He's not a wrestler, okay? And he likes to fight on the feet, okay? And now he's taking on Uros Medic, who is a very slick striker, who sets up his shots, who is a knockout artist, a fight finisher. He's no fights that gone to a decision. This guy finishes guys, all right? And I think he's going to get another one here. I think Punahele is going to shoot a takedown here. I don't think he's good enough to get takedowns. Simple as that. So on the feet, man, I think he's really outmatched in terms of skill. I really like this Uros Medic fight. The line here, I know it's like minus 190, but I think Medic is going to absolutely smoke him. You saw what Roman Kopylov did to him, and when it comes to skilled striking, I think Medic is better. I think Medic has extremely good footwork, like some of the best footwork, like in that division. I'm serious. He does have very smooth footwork, and I love watching him fight due to that. He gets out of the way of shots really, really well. He's able to slip punches well and ultimately like get out of the, like pop out, pop back in. He's a very slick striker, man. And I know people have, been on Punahele. I've seen a couple of guys on him. I don't hate it, but I'm just very high on Uros Medic as a striker. I think he's so underrated. And the footwork is going to give Punahele way too many problems. I think Medic is going to find a finish here. And I know he had a tough fight versus Matthew Semmelsberger. And, Matthew Semmelsberger's, a guy who can be really, really good one day and suck ass the next day. And Medic eventually got the finish in that fight. He's coming off a finish versus Means. I'm a fan of Medic. I'm a fan of his game. And I think he's going to fucking smoke Punahele Soriano. And, if the way that Punahele wins, maybe he can take him down. But he's going to gas out after that because he gasses out all the time, right? And maybe Punahele can catch him. But, man, with that footwork of Medic, I don't even see him being able to catch him. If he catches him, I'll just neck myself because I just think his footwork is so slick, guys. And I think he's going to be able to just kill Punahele and eventually find a finish kind of similar to that Roman Kopylov finish. I'm going Uros Medic, one of my favorite picks on the card easily. Next up, we got an interesting fight, a fight that I'm excited for. You got Austin Bashi taking on C-Rod Christian Rodriguez. Now, Christian Rodriguez has opened up this line very, very, very close. And originally, I was like, yeah, I understand. Bashi is a good fighter. He should be favorited. But now it's gone to minus 205. And I'm a big fan of Christian Rodriguez. I like his game. And I think he's a very good fighter. Great takedown defense. Great defensive wrestling. Great boxing. He has fantastic cardio. But, man, I'm telling you guys that Austin Bashi he's very, very good. He's very, very good, okay? And I usually don't say that about Contender Series guys, but this guy's really, really good. And I'm very, very excited to see him fight C-Rod, a tough fight. Man, Bashi's a tough fighter. First of all, I want to say world-class wrestler, world-class grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. He is extremely good at that, okay? And you go back to C-Rod fighting Raul Rosas. Bashi is 10 times the fighter Rosas is. It's not even a question. I don't give a fuck about any of that. Rosas is nowhere near Austin Bashi's level. Simple as that. And I think Rosas is cool. He's fun. Bashi's 10 times better. Okay? Bashi is a good Muay Thai striker. He has decent, striking, and that's his form of striking is Muay Thai. He's been doing it for a while. And his wrestling, man, he can take over the fight. And I want to go back specifically to his Contender Series fight where he wrestled a ton. He wrestled a ton versus the fighter he fought. And the commentators were going, what is he going to look like after the next round? Is he going to be gassed out? There was zero problems with his cardio. This guy does not run out of gas. He's constant pressure, constant takedowns. And C-Rod has been in positions like that versus Rosas, versus Dolgarian. I think Bashi's going to get him, man. Okay? Because I think, from what I've seen, man, the grappling is relentless. It does not stop. Okay? And if he doesn't find a finish in the early on, I think he can keep going. And I think he's that dominant of a grappler to go out there and destroy C-Rod, man. I hate to say it, but, man, from what I've seen from Bashi, he is very ready for this game, man. He is a fantastic fighter, a great skill set, does not run out of gas. Agility is off the charts, endurance is off the charts. I'm excited to see what he can do, but from what I've seen from the regional scene to the Contender Series, he's a dominant fighter, a very, very good fighter, and I'm going to have to pick him to win this fight, man. I don't see him losing. So I'm going with Austin Bashi. I think he's going to get a finish at the submission second round. Next up is going to be Roman Kopylov taking on Chris Curtis. Now look, Roman Kopylov been on a good little tear, man. He lost to Fluffy. Not a bad loss. I mean, I would expect Fluffy to beat Chris Curtis as well. But anyways, Roman Kopylov, when you look at his skill set, he's a big dude, low key. He's 6 foot, but he's a big guy. He carries some weight. He kicks very, very hard. He kicks very hard. Okay, he punches fast. He mixes up the boxing well. He's not the better boxer here. He is the faster guy here, but not so fast. Chris Curtis, I know he's a crybaby. I know he's got some emotional problems, but in my eyes, he's one of the most underrated guys on the roster. Now, you go back to some of his fights where he's having a lot of success. He had success versus Joaquin Buckley, knocked him out cold, okay? And I think he's underrated, man, and I think he's going to win this fight. One thing about Chris Curtis, brick wall takedown defense, which probably not a big factor here. He's got brick wall defense in general, though. Brick wall striking defense. Another thing about Chris Curtis, he is a southpaw. Roman Kopylov is a southpaw. The biggest weapon that Kopylov uses, and he has, is that rear kick to the body, rear kick to the head. That is plays such a big factor. It will not be there for him. It will not, okay? And I do think that Curtis, early on into this fight, I do expect Kopylov to win early on. But as that fight gets later, the pressure from Chris Curtis, the constant stalking from Chris Curtis, and really, like I said, just that pressure is going to be, adding up. And I do not like Roman Kopylov's footwork. I really don't, okay? I think his footwork's a little bit sloppy. He moves back in a straight line quite a bit, and he doesn't move side to side smoothly. It's kind of rushed. It's kind of, not in the right way. Not the best footwork moving backwards. And I think he's going to be moving backwards a lot in this fight. Another thing to take in note. This is in the Apex, a smaller cage. There's not going to be as much room for Roman Kopylov to go out there and move around. Another thing that Chris Curtis loves to do is he loves rip into that body. He just loves a slick counter right to the uppercut to the body. That's going to add up. What did Roman Kopylov do last fight? And he does pretty much in every fight. He does slow down because he's throwing some heat. Now, if Roman Kopylov does not get Chris Curtis out of there, I think it's going to be a little bit hairy, okay? Because Curtis is going to be on the pressure. He's going to be landing combinations. And I think he's live for a finish in the third round. But I think he will take this fight over. I'm very, very, kind of confident in this pick, man. I do like Chris Curtis to win this fight. I like Kopylov. I'm a fan of his game. He's a fun fighter. I think he's going to have some issues here. That southpaw kick is huge. It's not going to be there, okay? We'll see the adjustment that he makes. But the jab is there for Kopylov. But, man, Curtis is a good boxer. He's good at slipping and ripping. And I don't think Kopylov's going to be able to deal with that pressure the whole fight. I think we're going to see him gas out a little bit. And I do believe that Chris Curtis might be able to get a finish here. Later on into this fight, I'm going to be picking Chris Curtis to win this one. Hopefully, Chris can learn how to cut the cage off a little bit better. Still doesn't really do that well. But I don't trust Kopylov's footwork. So I'm going to be picking Chris Curtis to go out there and win this fight. I think it'll be hairy at first. But if Kopylov doesn't get a finish, I definitely expect this fight to go Chris Curtis's way. So I'm going to be picking Chris Curtis to win this fight via a 29-28 decision. Interesting one. Plus 210 dog right there, guys. Next up is going to be Cesar Almeida taking on Abdul Razak Alhassan. Now, honestly, I'm like, okay, Razak can go out there and take Cesar Almeida down. I don't know. I'm not going to rely on him to do that. Now, when you look at Razak Alhassan, he's very powerful. He's very powerful. He throws hard, and when he connects, he could put you out cold. But now he's going up against Almeida, who is a world-class kickboxer, man. He's a very, very good striker, very talented striker. And Razak, while he does hit hard, he does throw hard, and, he can grapple and win this fight via the wrestling ways. I don't trust his wrestling. He doesn't wrestle enough. I think that if he goes out there and tries to wrestle all the much, he's not going to win this fight. I don't think he's a good enough wrestler, man. And on the feet, he's so low volume as well. He doesn't throw a lot, and that's not good. It's not good to not throw a lot versus Cesar Almeida because he will pour the volume on and eventually knock you out, okay? He'll see the counter shots coming. He'll see the hard shots from Razak Alhassan. And I do think that he's going to get this one done. I know he's been at Extreme Couture working on that takedown defense. It's better than being at Alex Pereira's gym, I promise. So I know he's been working on that takedown defense. I expect him to come in here, not maybe with the best takedown defense, but improved. He's going to be constantly improving, and that's what's important here. And I think he'll win this fight via decision, just chopping at the legs, landing good shots, and probably another fight I'll stay away from just because too many question marks on Almeida's side with the takedown defense, because he was getting taken down by Roman Kopylov all the time, and then sometimes he has decent takedown defense. So it's weird, but I do think that Almeida is going to be able to control this fight with his striking. It's so skilled. He's able to land volume. Razak Al-Hassan cannot keep up with the volume. It should be Almeida 30-27, but I'm going to be picking Cesar Almeida. Next up, oh fuck, clicked on Ponzinibbio. My bad, guys. My fault. Okay, next up is going to be Carlston Harris taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio. Now, I believe Carlston Harris is open. I know he opened up as a favorite here, but now he is closing or getting close to being an underdog. Originally, I was on Ponzinibbio. I did think he'd come out here and win this fight, but skill for skill, honestly, I do think Ponzinibbio, he's a better striker. He's a better pure wrestler. But my goodness, and I know this is kind of crazy saying this because Carlston Harris just got put out cold. I think Santiago Ponzinibbio has some of the worst durability in the UFC, okay? You touch this guy with any shot, man, he's going to wobble. He's going to get hurt. He does not take punches well anymore at all, man. It's like, you know, when you worry about someone's durability, it's like not that big of a, you know, factor. And Carlston Harris isn't a guy who hits that hard, but it is a huge worry for me. If you're on the side of Ponzinibbio, his durability is so bad, man. And I really worry about it here. And a guy like Carlston Harris, he will sit down and exchange in the pocket if the fight gets like that. And even if he lands, you know, he doesn't have as much power as Ponzinibbio. But, man, I just cannot trust Santiago Ponzinibbio. I can't, okay? And I do think that he can have success with the calf kicks in this fight. But like I said, man, even skill for skill, I do think that Ponzinibbio is better. But, man, just one time this dude gets tagged, it just changes the fight. The Muslim Salikov fight, he could have won, but he was getting hurt, right? So he has, you know, does a good job, but he gets hurt so often. I think it's the biggest problem. I think he's got some of the worst durability I've ever seen so far, man. It's so bad. And his ability to take a punch is so bad now. I just think that, you know, honestly, I can see Ponzinibbio going out there and knocking Carlston Harris out, who's just been flatlined by Chaos Williams. But, I can't trust him, man. I can't trust it. That durability, guys, I don't know if it's just me seeing it, but my goodness, you just see him get tagged even a little bit. He gets hurt. Kevin Holland, I know, hits pretty hard. Kevin Holland was, like, just rocking him all over the place. And Ponzinibbio was outskilling him in that fight for a lot of that fight. But he got hurt all the time. He has horrible durability. There's no way I can bet on him or even pick him due to the fact of that durability. It's such a big problem that there's no way I'm going to pick him. So I am going to go with Carlston Harris. He has a decent skill set. He does have good front chokes, anaconda, Dars, you know, guillotine. And he's got unorthodox striking. And he is the longer guy here. And he does, you know, when somebody gets in the pocket, he will sit down on his punches, you know, and he does crack you hard when he does that. And Ponzinibbio can't take a shot, man. I'm going with Carlston Harris via a KO in this fight. Next up is going to be Amanda Ribas taking on Mackenzie Dern. Now, we've seen some improvements in Mackenzie Dern's striking. She needs to, you know, improve on her striking still. I don't want to be mean here, but her footwork on the back foot, it's got to be some of the worst I've ever seen. I mean, you're seeing her tiptoe backwards with like this. It's so bad. Oh my goodness. And if this isn't a fight where she can go and dominate on the ground, I don't really see her winning. Simple as that, right? She does have good striking on the front foot, like I just said, and she does throw some steam into her shots. She's going against Ribas, who is tough. She's durable. And Ribas has a good gas tank, has good cardio. And if she nullifies the takedowns from Mackenzie Dern, she should not have a problem with this fight. I don't see her having a problem with this fight. If that's the case, she's the better striker. She showed that in the first fight. She's gotten better from the striking. And, you know, Ribas isn't perfect. She struggles with people that have a sense of footwork. You know, I go back to Luana Pinheiro was killing her, tagging her up because she was moving around with the footwork. And Mackenzie Dern's not going to be able to do that. So I do think that Ribas will get the better of Mackenzie Dern, and I think she has opportunities to hurt her as well. The kicking of Ribas is going to be big, going to be important in this fight. Dern doesn't have any defense whatsoever, first of all, and she doesn't have any leg kick defense. She doesn't have any striking defense at all, really. So while this fight's on the feet, I do expect Ribas to, do pretty well and land bigger shots, and I think she is live for the possibility of a KO. Just, man, because, Ribas will go out there and she'll extend some of her combinations and go out there and, put 2 or 3, 4 punches together. And if your fighter is Mackenzie Dern, who backs up in a straight line, tippy-toe, like she's in high heels with her chin up in the air, it's definitely possible for her to get hurt, right? So I definitely think that's a possibility that we'll see, So I do think the bigger moments, Dern's wrestling, she's coming in at like some of the worst takedown accuracy in the division. She does have some decent throws. Obviously, she's dangerous on the mat. Ribas is dangerous on the mat as well, though, okay? And, probably Dern's a little bit better with jiu-jitsu. Ribas can kind of nullify that. She has good solid takedown defense, and she does make some stupid decisions where she'll get that headlock and she'll throw. It's stupid. I hate when she does that, and, she shouldn't do that in this fight because she's going to have an advantage on the feet. But Dern, I will say, on the front foot striking, she's not bad. She throws steam, like I said. But my goodness, man, it's just when she's backing up, it's just atrocious, guys. It's atrocious. So I do think that ultimately, we're going to see Ribas be able to defend takedowns, and she does have better cardio and win this fight via that. If Dern can get her to the mat, obviously Dern can have a chance versus anybody. She has very good jiu-jitsu, but Ribas is another fighter that is a black belt. She's probably not as good, but close to as good as her Mackenzie Dern on the mat. So I do think that for the main event, I'm going to be going with Amanda Ribas to get a decision win here. Look, man, that's going to wrap it up for me. I hope y'all boys enjoyed. I will leave my Discord in the comments. It's free. All my bets are there. You can ask me some questions in there. It's all free. So yeah, man, I'll catch y'all boys in the next one.